Hello, everybody. Thank you for tuning in for today's CGS webinar. We'll be talking about highlights from the 2017 CGS GRE Survey of Graduate Enrollment and Degrees. The report was released last week, and I hope many of you had a chance to review the report. Before we start the webinar presentation, first a couple logistics slides. Okay, so the plan is we are going to have about half an hour or so of presentation based on our latest GED data. And after that, we're going to take some questions from the audience. As always, the webinar recording will be, and the slides will be emailed to all participants and will be posted on CGS website on later date. And if you have any questions about today's presentation, you don't need to wait until the very end, but you can simply type in your questions through the GoToWebinar control panel as shown in this slide. If you have technical issues, the best way to troubleshoot is to follow this link. And if you have issues with hearing us, try switching to a different audio connection as shown there. If you experience trouble with a telephone connection problem, dialing in alternative phone number will appear as well. Now, before going into the slide, I wanted to hand over the microphone to CGS President Suzanne Ortega to say a few words.
Welcome, colleagues, and thank you for joining us for today's webinar on the results from the most recent Graduate Enrollment and Degrees survey. I really need to give my thanks to both the CGS staff, Hiro Okahana, Ryan Bradshaw, NU Zhou, and others for their hard work in creating the report, but also a special thanks to ETS, who since 1986, 32 years, if my math serves me correctly, have been a partner with CGS in creating and disseminating this unique data source. So again, welcome. We think you will find the results of great interest. We hope you will feel free to ask questions. And with that, I will turn the microphone back over to the CGS team to share the results of the study.
Well, thank you, Suzanne. So, just a little bit about the CGS GRE Survey of Graduate Enrollment and Degrees. As Suzanne noted, this survey is jointly sponsored by the Council of Graduate Schools and the Graduate Record Examinations Board since 1986. This is the only national survey that collects data on first-time and total graduate enrollment across all fields of graduate study, as well as the only source of data on graduate enrollment by degree level and on applications to graduate school by all fields of study. So this data set is very unique in offering not just the total enrollment, but the application trends as well as the first-time graduate enrollment trends. For the fall 2017 survey, we sent the survey to 777 U.S. institutions of higher education, which are CGS member institutions, as well as member institutions of CGS's regional affiliates. Our response rate for this year's survey was 80%, and every year we do this, and we cannot emphasize this enough, but we really thank all the institutions who year after year participating in this important survey project. The robustness of this survey project and the relevance of our findings really relies on the continuous participation that all of you your institutions are providing the data to our project. So thank you so much for continuing to be part of this important effort. So some of the key findings in terms of graduate applications count. As you see in this figure, Between fall 2016 and the fall 2017 admission cycle, number of applications the institutions participated in the Graduate Enrollment and Degrees Survey received toward both the doctoral level and master's and other programs had declined. The decline was, in 1 year decline was by 1.8%. And for masters and others, 1.8% decline as well. And the decline for the doctoral level was by 2%. The enrollment, however, the first-time graduate enrollment was virtually flat between fall 2016 and the fall 2017 admission cycle. As you see, 0.1% decline in the overall first-time enrollment. This is the combination of both the master's level and the doctoral level first-time enrollment. No change was observed for master's and other programs, and 0.8% decline in doctoral level first-time enrollment. In terms of, seeing that application numbers went down, but the first-time enrollment rate remained rather the same. So the question would go to the if any changes on the application acceptance rate was observed. Well, in terms of the doctoral level, overall, as you see in this figure, year-to-year change, the application acceptance rates at the doctoral level seems to not have changed much between fall 2016 and fall 2017. At the master's application acceptance rates, in some of the fields, health sciences, engineering, and arts and humanities have increased a little bit, as you can see in these yellow, orange, green, and the blue lines currently shown in the and on display in your screen. Though, as you can see, if you look to the 10-year trends, even with a slight increase from the fall 2016 number, for the most fields, the application acceptance rates are still lower than some of the 10 years ago. Now, if you look at the overall trends in first-time graduate enrollment over a 10-year period, in some of the fields, first-time enrollment has grown quite a bit. Business and math and the computer sciences, right now they're shown as the gray is business and the light blue is the math and the computer sciences. As you can see, the first-time graduate enrollment in these fields increased quite a bit. Though the increase between fall 2016 and fall 2017 might not be the fastest, but it is still in the upward trajectory overall. In some fields, however, the first-time graduate enrollment has declined between fall 2016 and fall 2017. As you see in the yellow line, that education has shown some decline. If you look to the left side of the slide, first-time enrollment for education appears to have peaked around fall 2009, and since then we saw some decline. Although between 2015 and 2016, it seemed to have bounced back a little bit on the first-time enrollment, but between fall 2016 and fall 2017, we have seen another decline in the first-time enrollment. Math and computer science, since about fall 2014, the first-time enrollment has flattened, and this time around we have seen slight decrease compared to the year ago. And the health sciences and the public administration, health sciences, which have seen relatively rapid increase in the first-time enrollment over between 2007 and 2015 or so, we have still an increase compared to the year before, but appears to be much slower rate. And also public administration services field, we have also seen the flattening of our first-time enrollment. And the Arts and the Humanities first-time enrollment, as you can see in the graph, not as a rapid decline, but slowly continue to decline its first-time enrollment over the last 10 years, and the fall 2017 figure did not appear to be an exception. Now, if we look at the data by degree level, you see some of the changes, some changes are much larger between the 2016-2017 than 5-year average. In this table, currently displayed on the screen, the first column, the percentage change between 2016-2017, is the year-to-year change that we observe. This is based on the institutions reported the data to our survey for both years. And the next column, we are displaying average annual change of 5-year period between 2012 and 2017. So based on this one, you can see that, for example, Arts and Humanities they have declined by 5.7% just between 2016 and 2017 for their doctoral first-time enrollment, compared to 2.7% of the 5-year averages. Health sciences doctoral degrees have seen slightly faster rate of growth between 2016-2017 than the 5-year average. The same was the case for the math and the computer sciences as well. Interestingly, we observed that for education doctorates and engineering doctorates, and as well as the business, 5-year average per annual changes were positive, but between fall 2016 and fall 2017, we have seen a decline in these fields. For master's degrees program, the percentage changes were a little bit different from what we have seen at the doctoral level. But we have seen that some of the fields have been declining over the last 5 years. For example, the education in the last 5 years, on average 1.5% decrease in the first-time enrollment, and the 1-year change between fall 2016 and fall 2017 was down by 5.3%. But in some other fields, the fall 2016 and the fall 2017 appears to be a little bit out of the norm. So, for example, engineering, over the last 5 years, first-time enrollment in engineering for master's degrees went up by 3.1% annually on average. But between fall 2016 and fall 2017, we saw somewhat of a sudden decrease by 5.3%. Health sciences and math and computer sciences continue to be growing, but the rate of growth had slowed down significantly. Over the last 5 years, the health sciences on average grew first-time enrollment by 4.2% at the master's level, but between fall 2016 and fall 2017, growth was only at 1.3%. Math and the computer sciences, the field that grew by on average 15.6% annually at the master's level in the last 5 years, only grew by 3.8% between fall 2016 and fall 2017. So that's a little bit of a change in the pace in terms of the growth rate. So now we are going to touch on the enrollment by the race ethnicity. For Hispanic and Latino students, first-time graduate enrollment continues to grow. As you can see, the 10-year annual average was 8.1% for Hispanic or Latino first-time graduate enrollment at the institutions participated in Graduate Enrollment Degree survey. 5-year average was 8.0%. 1-year change between fall 2016 and fall 2017 slowed down a little bit to 5.6%. But among the different race ethnic group, we collect the data currently. Hispanic and Latino students had a very robust growth in terms of first-time graduate enrollment. Black African American first-time graduate enrollment too also continue to grow, however, much slower rates than those of Hispanic Latino counterparts. Between fall 2016 and fall 2017, first-time Black African American graduate enrollment grew by 2.2%. But this was in comparison to 2.9% for 5-year annual average and 3.3% on the 10-year annual average. The first-time enrollment of American Indian, Alaska Native students had declined, however. This was very stark contrast from their Black African American and Hispanic Latino counterparts. Over the last 10 years, each year, the first-time enrollment declined on average by 1.9%, and between fall 2016 and fall 2017, their first-time enrollment declined by 6.5%. And this is continue to be rather alarming figures that we are seeing. So, although we have seen the decline in American Indian, Alaska Native student first-time enrollment, at least for Hispanic Latino students and Black African American students, we continue to see growth in their first-time enrollment at the graduate level, which is quite positive. And in terms of proportional share among the U.S. citizens and the permanent residents in this survey, in fall 2017, 23.9% of first-time graduate enrollment was for these underrepresented minority students. This is a slight increase from fall 2016 when their representation was at 23.4%. And in terms of looking at tracking the proportional share of these underrepresented minority students among the first-time graduate enrollment, as you can see in this dotted green line, the shares of Hispanic Latino students among the total domestic graduate enrollment grew over the last decade in a very substantial pace. But for other URM groups, the gain was not as robust as the Hispanic Latino students. The bold green line shows the proportional share of Black African American students, and although their proportional share has grown slightly, but is still not as dramatic increase as that of the Hispanic Latino students. And for Native American Alaska Indian students, their proportional share actually declined slightly. So the point here is that although we continue to see growth in first-time graduate enrollment for Hispanic Latino students in particular, as well as the Black African American students, in terms of having more equitable representation in graduate education for different race ethnic groups, we still have ways to go to improve these numbers and to make the graduate education more accessible. Now we are going to move on to talk about enrollment trends for international students. So between fall 2016 and fall 2017, the first-time graduate enrollment of international students at the institutions participating in this survey project declined by 3.7%. In the one cycle before, between fall 2015 and fall 2016, we saw the decline of 0.9%. So compared to that, well, this year's decline was more visible, and this is very stark contrast from just a few admission cycles ago. We were seeing very large increases of the first-time enrollment of international students. And over the last 10 years, the growth in first-time graduate enrollment at these institutions, or the rate of growth was much faster for international students consistently for the last 10 years. So you can see on the 10-year average, international student first-time enrollment of international graduate students grew by 5.6% annually on average, compared to only increase of 1.9% for domestic students in the last 10 years. But between fall 2016 and fall 2017, the relationship flipped. We have seen, again, 3.7% decrease of first-time graduate enrollment of international students, whereas we saw 1.1% increase of U.S. domestic students at these institutions participated in our survey project. And these differences in terms of change between the changes in first-time enrollment between fall 2016 and fall 2017, the numbers vary by broader fields of the study. So in this figure, you are seeing the first-time enrollment changes between fall 2016 and fall 2017 by broader fields of study and by citizenship status. The orange bars represent percentage change in first-time enrollment for U.S. domestic students, and the blue bars represent percentage changes in the first-time graduate enrollment between fall 2016 and fall 2017 for international students. And the particularly notable part is that for engineering, first-time international graduate enrollment dropped by 8.9%, and math and the computer sciences first-time graduate enrollment dropped by 3.4%. And in these fields, respectively, the U.S. domestic students, their first-time enrollment grew by 1.6% and 17.2%. Nevertheless, so for international side, this is a very robust decrease that we have seen between just an admission cycle. And why these are important fields to highlight, that is because in fall 2016, 50.57% of engineering first-time graduate students and 60.7% of math and computer sciences first-time graduate students were international students. So having international students is the majority of their incoming class. Obviously, the changes in their enrollment year to year can make a very significant impact in number of students that your institutions might be taking in, and thus down the line could affect the number of degrees granted in these fields of study. And then beyond some of the differences that we saw in changes on the first-time enrollment of international graduate students, we have run some additional analyses to see if there are any differences in this trends in international graduate enrollment by institutional characteristics. In this chart, you are seeing the changes in the first-time international graduate enrollment between fall 2016 and fall 2017 by Carnegie Basic classification. The orange bar represents, so we pulled out the three numbers. One is the changes for the total international graduate enrollment first time, and engineering, then math and computer sciences. So if you look at the total, which is the far left cluster, the orange bar represents the percentage changes for doctoral universities with the highest research activity, or one institution. They actually saw 1.4% increase in first-time international graduate enrollment between 2016 and fall 2017. But the next bar, the doctoral universities with the higher research activity, or two universities, and the doctoral universities with the moderate research activities, or three universities, and then master's colleges and universities, are all three types of institutions the first-time international graduate enrollment declined by quite a bit. Just as a note that CGS membership tend to cluster more toward the doctoral universities with larger research activities. So the sample size for R1 institutions are larger than R2, R3, and the masters in colleges and universities. But nevertheless, it seemed pretty clear looking at these numbers that the direction to which the international graduate enrollment moved between fall 2016 and fall 2017 looked quite different between the R1 institutions and the institutions other than the R1 institutions. Similar relationships seem to be true for engineering and as well as the math and the computer sciences fields as well. And although R1 institutions are the ones that proportionally have a larger number of international graduate students among their first-year cohorts, when you only look at engineering and math and computer sciences, for those institutions other than R1 and R1 institutions too have very large number of students in engineering and math and computer sciences who are international students. So again, these changes, these shifts in the international enrollment in these fields and others could have an impact in overall enrollment figures for these institutions. So these were some of the high level results that we found interesting, and the full report is available on the CGS website. If you go to the tab for the benchmarking and then graduate enrollment degrees, or if you simply click the banner on the front page of our CGS website, you should be able to access our press release for the report as well as the full report. We are going to send out a fine fields report to CGS member institutions sometime early next week. So that'll be your additional resource from this data set. And also just a reminder that you can request the custom data reports to have an aggregate. So you can request the aggregated data tables for your peers and your aspirational peer institutions for modest fees. So if you see any data tables in full report and fine field reports that you want to see customized version just for the selected institutions of your choice, please feel free to contact us, and we can accommodate those data requests. So now I'd like to open up for any questions that you might have, any technical or other substantive questions that you might have about this report. If nothing else, I also have some of the questions for you to consider and to let us know, because we have this very good national trend data. But what's important is if these are the trends that you are also seeing at your campus, and if you're seeing these similar trends or even other trends, we would certainly like to know what factors you think that these enrollment trends are affected by at your institutions, and how you may be using these data points, national data trends, or the data trends out of your own institutions to inform your campus programs, policies, and the recruitment strategies other. So please use the question box for the webinar platform, and we are going to go through some of the questions we already noted. Okay, so I have one question about where the Hispanic growth in terms of location within the United States. That's a really good question. We have not run the data in that way, but maybe that's a good topic for us to do quick analysis and make a data resource available for member institutions. So, well, thank you for your comment, Michael. So the table 17, and for any tables that shows 5-year averages and 10-year averages is, so the way we compute is we look at this year's data, and we look at the data from 5 years ago or 10 years ago, and take the change between those two numbers and divide that by 5 years or 10 years. So it's not an analysis of trends, but we'll look at the year 1 and the year 5 or 10 to compute that number. I have a question about if there's any more breakdown of the decline of international enrollment by country. So the Graduate Enrollment Degree Survey does not collect the data by countries of origin or regions of origin. However, that our other enrollment survey project, the International Graduate Admission Survey, collect the data by regions of origin and selected countries of origin. And if you are member graduate deans or designated data collectors for our member institutions or the members of CGS affiliates, you should have received the invitation to participate in the International Graduate Admission Survey this past Friday. So please check your inbox, and if you think that you should have got the email but you have not seen it, please feel free to send me an email so that we can send you the correct link. The survey will be open until around the Veterans Day, and we are going to release, our plan is to release the data on full 2018 international graduate admissions around late January, early February of 2019. So I have the question about if CGS considered collecting data on first-time enrollment of first-generation students. I think that'll be a very interesting indicator to have beyond just the race ethnicity, to have a little bit better, more socio-demographic factors. But I think the important part to note about our enrollment survey is that we rely on the institution's ability to report the data to us. So, as long as a sufficient number of institutions are collecting these data points about the first generation and being easily provide us with the data, I think that's something we are open to continue to think about it. We certainly want to be able to provide relevant and useful benchmarking information to our institutions. Do we expect these trends to continue for the next few years? Now, that's a difficult one to assess. And I think if we have that crystal ball, we might be earning, we might be going a little bit, a couple of steps over on our pay grades. But so in terms of international enrollment, we have seen, in the last time we have seen the major decline was post 9/11. Then we rebounced back. So I think, for us, it's more useful to know if you, as in the member institutions, are changing the recruitment strategies in lieu of these data that we are providing. And now that we saw between fall 2016 and fall 2017, we saw the decline of international first-time enrollment by 3.7%. And, we have a little bit of a lag in the data, but for institutions, especially the ones who have seen the decline in international enrollment, this probably was not the news. So it'll be great for us to contextualize into this data by learning more about what individual institutions are doing to adjust the recruitment strategies of others. So that might inform our conversation about where we see the trends are heading. International enrollment declining in other Western countries. We don't have that data points with us to answer that question, unfortunately. We see stories here and there from inside higher ed and the Chronicle and other places, but okay. Well, if not, as I said earlier, the slides as well as the webinar recording will be made available on CGS website, and it will also be emailed to the webinar participants separately. So please look for these the slides and the recordings. And again, the full report is available on CGS website. And if you are interested in customized data tables, again, like if you see any data tables that you'd like to see for selected institutions, we are happy to take those requests and then make this data resources, make this data more accessible and useful for our members. So please do not hesitate to contact us. Just a few notes about other CGS surveys. Like I say, International Graduate Admission Survey is currently in field. So if you are deans or the designated data collectors, please check your inbox. And if your institution for some reason has not received the survey instrument, please contact us. Again, the report will be available early part of 2019. And in November, fall 2018 Graduate Enrollment Degree Survey cycle will start. Again, please look out to keep your eyes out for the emails about that GED survey. And again, that we cannot thank you and we cannot emphasize enough about the importance of your continuous participation in these important data collection efforts. I think that's it. So thank you so much for tuning in to today's webinar, and have a good rest of the day.